Hello guys, welcome back to Fanfic Dojo. Today we will be listening to What If Naruto Faced His Past Again Part 2. Naruto looked on as Sakura and Sasuke trained with one eye, the other was closed. He was supposed to mediate, but the noises when they fell down from the trees distracted him quite a bit. So instead he had opted to secretly watch them. He knew Kakashi saw he was not paying attention, but the man had so far not said anything. Maybe he found it funny too. When he did not read Ika Ika Paradise, he had to focus on something. However, Naruto would not be watching them the whole time. He, Shikamaru and Gaara were going to infiltrate Gato's manor today, and get rid of the man and whoever was stupid enough to stand in their way. Oh, after dinner Naruto discreetly left a copy of himself behind in child form and went to meet up with Shikamaru and Gaara. He moved swiftly through the streets, clad in a brown cloak that hid his body, hair and upper face. In his hurry, he did not notice Kakashi walking behind him. The copy nin had noticed the brown cloaked man and his rather impressive chakra, despite he probably tried to hide it, and decided to track the man for a little bit. He left a Kage Bunshin back with his team, figuring he would be back in a few minutes. His eye widened as two men joined the first, their chakra somewhat ominous and focused. They moved swiftly out from the town, and with a little dread Kakashi realized they were going towards Gato's manor. Still, he followed them. Any information would be good at this point. Naruto stopped once they reached the gates, and all the hired people turned to glare at them within the gates. Some of them unsheathed their swords. Well, don't they look like a cheerful bunch? Shikamaru said and raised an eyebrow. Gaara snorted at that. We're not here to play games no matter how much we want it, Naruto said. No names. Got it, boss, Shikamaru said and saluted. Naruto shook his head. The shadow user apparently loved that gesture. Kakashi watched from a tree the scene, wondering what the three were going to do against all those hired men. What the hell are you doing here? One man screamed at the three. We wish to meet with Gato-san. That's all you need to know, Naruto called out. Well, it ain't happening. Don't recognize your faces, so no meeting, no nothing. We aren't even showing our faces. The brunette sweat dropped. Naruto tore off his cloak, grinned and said, well then, we'll just simply have to force our way through. Kakashi understood in that moment this was two scenarios. 1. They were greedy and would kill to get as much money for themselves, or 2. Their final objection was to assassinate Gato. He looked at the one who had torn his cloak off. His hair was hidden and he was dressed in black clothing. He could not get a clear view of the face. The other two tore off their cloaks as well. The one to the left had red hair and two katanas on his back. The one to the right had black hair and a few scrolls resting on his left hip. The two were like the first man dressed in black, and a moment later, before Kakashi could see their faces, they blurred out of sight. Naruto drop-kicked one man in the head, not even bothering to listen to the breaking of the neck, already moving on to the next one. Cruel, yes, but he had been cruel for years. War changed someone, no matter how much he hated it. Gaara got his katanas and slashed through people left and right without problems. There was no real need to be gentle and just knock them out. These people did this for money. They did not care if they killed someone, so why should the three show these scum mercy? Shikamaru got out one of the scrolls and summoned 3 shurikens he subtly controlled with his shadow. Like a puppeteer with his puppets, Shikamaru threw out his hands and the shurikens flew through the air. Kakashi watched them work with his eye wide open. It was messy, bloody and completely heartless. They tore through human flesh like it was nothing. Perhaps for those three it was nothing. All too soon they had wiped them all out and Gaara cleaned his katanas. Should we just go inside and kill Gato? He asked Naruto. Yeah, I don't think I can follow through and act like I'm on his side, Naruto said. I vote for that, Shikamaru said and walked up to them. Kakashi debated whether to stay or not, wondering if someone of Gato's men perhaps were in town, just waiting for a chance to kill Tazuna. He watched them walk inside. He took the chance, and followed them. Oh, Naruto. Gaara and Shikamaru stopped once they reached Gato's room as they heard him and another person talk. Kakashi, hidden in the shadows, was not far from them. He still could not get a clear view of the first man's face. It was like his eyesight got blurry once he looked at him. The other two were vaguely familiar, but he could not place them, no matter how hard he tried. Plus he only saw their upper faces. They had put on cloths on their lower faces while entering the manor. Silent as the grave, the three men and the hidden Kakashi listened onto the conversation on the other side of the door. What are you going to do, Gato-sama? Do nothing. In a little while that blasted bridge worker will be gone, and I can have complete control. Gato said in glee. I sent Zabuza and to attack him. Shit. Shikamaru muttered. Do we need to hear more? No. Kill him, Naruto said quietly. I'll go ahead. Do so, we'll catch up, Gaara said. They did not notice Kakashi, but that was because the moment he heard about Zabuza he had taken off. So now he was running the fastest he could towards the bridge, cursing himself. He should not have followed. He should have stayed with his team. They were not going to be able to beat Zabuza. Naruto had some luck last time, shocking the man with the information, but that was not going to last forever. Sakura was not strong enough, and it was the same with Sasuke. If the boy had the Sharingan then maybe, but he had not. So now he hoped he would arrive in time to help them. Oh, Naruto landed on the beginning of the bridge and was surrounded by mist. Zabuza was here, so was Kakashi. They were fighting. He quickly located his copy, then Sakura, Sasuke and Tazuna. Sasuke's chakra was weak. Naruto ran off into the mist as he felt Haku close in on the three. His copy had received a serious cut in the leg, and could not move very well. Time for a surprise. Haku stood not far from the three, Sakura holding Sasuke's body close. Naruto noted he had Sharingan activated and felt a bit relieved. The boy was still conscious. That meant he was not as badly injured as last time. But with the way his chest was heaving, he was exhausted. Time for you to die, Haku said quietly. Farewell. He threw his senbons, but Naruto was quicker. He landed in front of the three, crouched down with one leg behind him slightly to give support as he threw his arms out and released a powerful charge of chakra-filled wind. He blew away the senbons as well as the mist, also making Haku skid across the bridge. Kakashi and Zabuza looked up and Kakashi's eyes widened, both his normal and his Sharingan one. The same man that had killed Gato's men. Naruto straightened up and looked on as Haku got up. Who are you? The boy shouted. We've killed Gato, Naruto said to him. There is no longer a reason for you to kill these people. Haku hesitated. Why did you kill him? Zabuza asked, confused but still ready to engage in a fight again. Naruto turned his head to look at the man and said, I only made the world a favor. He blurred out of sight and kicked Zabuza away from Kakashi. Zabuza-san. Gaara and Shikamaru appeared on each side of Zabuza, grabbed him and vanished. Naruto grabbed Haku around the waist, looked at Kakashi and let his face become clear for a moment. You! Kakashi exclaimed in shock as he recognized the black-dressed man as the mysterious Shiroi from Konoha. Until later then, Kakashi-san, Naruto said and vanished. Oh, Zabuza looked at the three men after they had told exactly what they had done and finally nodded. Guess you saved me from a possible stupid death, he said. We'll move on then, I suppose. Naruto did not try to make them come with them to Konoha. Why bind them to a village full of hatred and mistrust, and force them to listen to the council? No, he rather have them free. Don't get caught, he said. I would hate to become your reaper. His smile frightened the demon from mist, and a moment later Zabuza and Haku were alone in the meadow. Oh, Naruto slid back to his spot without problems and let Kakashi fuss over the faked wound after he had finished fussing with Sasuke. The blonde never took his perverted teacher for a fussing one, but apparently he was mistaken. Sensei, I'm fine, he said. Just a cut. A deep one. You're going to limp while it's healing. Kyubi muttered in his mind, faint whispers, and Kakashi felt the demon chakra focus on the wound. He looked up sharply at Naruto. The man decided to act clueless and said, "What? Nothing. What my ass? Shut up, Kyubi. Come on, can you stand?" Naruto allowed himself to take Kakashi's hands and pulled himself up. "I'll survive it," the blonde said. "How's Sasuke?" "He's asleep. Probably will do that for a while," Kakashi said. "I'm going to help finishing the bridge. You guys stay here and relax." Naruto looked at him, wondering what was different. Something was different about Kakashi, or had it been so long since he had seen him that Naruto had forgotten the copy nin completely? Kakashi knew something was up with Naruto. Something was wrong. He was too calm, too collected, he must know about Kyubi. There had to be something. Could it be that Kyubi whispers sweet lies into the child's ears and Naruto is beginning to believe in them? Could it really have gone that bad? No, he would not think of Naruto as a monster. The child was not a threat. He was just lonely, having nothing but a demon's company, and that mysterious friend. Seriously, Kakashi had to make Naruto introduce them. He was going insane otherwise. "Sensei, aren't you supposed to go to the bridge?" He jumped high and whirled around. Naruto looked at him. "I'm on my way," he said. "You shouldn't scare your elders like that. What a shinobi you are. Can't even notice a 12-year-old sneak up on you," Naruto muttered and limped outside. "Naruto, when we get back to the village, would you mind introducing your friend to me?" Naruto looked at the man, genuinely confused. Something was wrong with Kakashi, or he did care. He blinked, realized the man had asked a question and answered. "Sure. Why not? Maybe their relationship would be different this time around. Last time, they had barely known each other. Kakashi had done everything in his power to teach Sasuke about Sharingan. Leaving Naruto behind, not knowing how much he had hurt the blonde. Thus, his thoughts led from the copy nin to his mentor Jiraiya, and then his mind screeched to a half and Naruto forced the memories away. Too late. Kakashi became concerned as Naruto grabbed his head lightly, muttering something under his breath. "Are you alright?" he asked. "I'm fine. Just a bit of headache," Naruto said as he chased the images of the dead white-haired man away. The blood, the vacant eyes, the rain that hid Naruto's tears. Kyubi shoved the images away and soothing, burning red chakra flowed into the blonde. Kakashi's eye widened as he felt the demon chakra fill Naruto for a moment before retreating back to the blonde's belly. Naruto took down his hand and Kakashi realized in that moment that Kyubi was taking away Naruto's pain, whatever it might be, even though he was a demon and should hate the child he was sealed in. "He's gaining on us. Shoot up, Kyubi. Man, you sure are easy to piss off today." Naruto looked up at the man and saw he could not lie about it. "He's not dangerous," Naruto said. "At least not to me." "He's not trying to take over?" Kakashi asked. "Nope. He likes to scare people though." So that was only for scaring, the show a few days prior when Naruto freaked out Zabuza a bit. "Naruto, I want you to tell me the moment you think he's trying to take over," Kakashi said and looked at him. "I don't want anything bad happen to you just because of that thing." "I'm not a thing, you fucker. Kyubi, I'm warning you, scream again, and I'll fucking strangle you." Naruto smiled a bit and said, "You got it." "Oh." Naruto smiled as he saw the gates come in view. He might not like Konoha that much, but he was looking forward for new missions with Shikamaru and Gaara. The two had returned directly after vanishing from the meadow, and that meant they had not spoken for some days. He kinda missed them. Sakura was still trying to gain Sasuke's attention and Kakashi was watching him as he had done for the last few days. So he was the only to notice that Naruto's steps got lighter and he walked ahead of all of them. His blue eyes widened a bit when he saw Shikamaru in his disguise form by the gates. "Naruto, welcome back." The rest of his team stopped in shock at seeing the cheerful guy waving to the blonde. Naruto thanked Gaara, who had thought ahead and given them both false names. Enju. Naruto called out and then turned to Kakashi. Is it okay? Sure. Kakashi said. The man in disguise grinned, shocking the copy nin even more, and then ran up to this Enju. Shikamaru looked over at them all quickly, then said. Dad's at home. Dinner's on us tonight. Come on. Sakura had her jaw almost hitting the ground in shock. Sasuke blinked twice. Kakashi definitely had a thing or two to learn about this strange blonde brat. Oh, that was a good show, I suppose, Naruto said. Shikamaru grinned as he sat down on the low table in the living room. Ain't a lie though. Gaara wants to try this new dish and told me to kidnap you and drag you here. Yeah, fat chance you can do that. If I wriggle my fingers a bit, and ask the shadows for a favor, you won't be saying that for much longer, Shikamaru said with a grin. Stop wriggling them like that. Shikamaru cackled evilly. Kakashi looked at the house he had seen Naruto and Enju enter. It was not that big, but it had a rather nice yard, calming and private from prying eyes. Of course not from a shinobi who sat in the trees like Kakashi did, but they did not have to know that particular detail. Suddenly the slide door opened and Naruto stepped out. The kid followed and flopped down on the wooden floor, yawning. What Kakashi presumed was the father came out last, carrying a tray with steaming teacups and a plate with a dessert. He sat down rather gracefully and put the tray down. Naruto took one of the teacups and laid down on his stomach while Enju rolled over so he could rest his head on the blonde's back. Lazy ass, Naruto said. Shut up, Enju growled. The man chuckled at them both and Kakashi was struck how alike a family they were. He silently moved away to leave Naruto alone. Naruto looked himself in the mirror, checking the length of his hair. Satisfied, he pulled it into a ponytail and checked his clothes briefly. White shirt, dark blue pants and a black vest. Good enough. He fastened the pouch and kunai holster, making sure to have his scrolls with him within another scroll. Ready for the day, he got out. Kakashi was reading his book lazily, lying on a branch, when he saw Naruto run towards the waterfall not too far away. The man frowned. Team 7 had a free day, so why was the teen up and running at this time of the morning? It was barely 8. Naruto, wait up. Come on, lazy ass, you do know how to run. Enju came in sight and screamed in rage before following Naruto. Kakashi put away the book and watched the two boys. The father came walking in a more moderate pace, carrying a shoulder bag. The shinobi watched them with interest. It felt a bit like a picnic. He had some time before he was supposed to be at the Hokage Tower, so he carefully followed. Gaara sat down as he watched Naruto push Shikamaru into the water, Shikamaru not managing to stop it and fell down with his arms waving around. It was rather entertaining to play the father. His name in this form was Jiden and he had retired from work despite his rather young age due to his wife's death in water. They had moved here when Naruto was 9 and the boy had met Enju, in the age of 12 then, and had become friends fast. Perfect lie, plus no one seemed to complain. It was not many that lived around them, and those who did were old and usually forgot what day and year it was. Most of the time they forgot who he was too. You fucker. Enju shouted as he got up. I told you, I don't play nice. Naruto shouted back and ran to Jiden, who had to smile. It was good to see Naruto be a bit like he had been, back when Gaara first learned to know him. Playful yet serious, grinning like there was no tomorrow. Sometimes he missed that Naruto but also knew he would never trade present Naruto for a more carefree version of him. What's on your mind, old man? Naruto asked. Hey, I'm not that old. Jiden protested. Old man, Enju called from the river. Enju. Yeah, Enju. Naruto shouted. Don't take his side. Enju got out and came up from the water, dripping wet. Naruto. You're so going to get it. Yeah, try getting me. Kakashi watched the two boys running around, seeing the blonde was taking it slow with Enju, who clearly was no shinobi nor knew any shinobis around him. His movements, while graceful for a normal boy, were so clumsy in a shinobi's eyes. It was a bit entertaining watching the two, but work was calling. Shikamaru and Naruto stopped once they knew Kakashi was gone. Jerk. Shikamaru muttered. Bitch. Naruto replied. You too. No swearing, Gaara said. Shut up. Both said simultaneously. Oh. Naruto's eyes narrowed when he felt Gaara's presence, the younger Gaara, the bloodlust clear in the air. He had left Sakura and Sasuke, maybe they met him instead of him and Sakura like last time. Let him down. Sasuke's voice, serious. Not until he learns his lesson. Kankuro. Naruto had to stop and enjoy it for a moment, he had missed that voice. Remembering why he was there, Naruto shook his head and got down to business. He walked around the corner and saw Konohamaru in Kankuro's grip, Temari standing slightly behind with a hand on her hip. You do realize that's the Hokage's grandson you're holding? Naruto called out as he walked closer. The siblings turned to look at him, and he continued, You're from Suna, am I right? Who the hell are you? Kankuro asked. Tell your friend to come down from the tree first, and let go of Konohamaru of course, Naruto said with a polite smile. His chillingly cold chakra told them a different tale. Konohamaru ran back to safety of his friends, Sakura and Sasuke once Kankuro released him and Gaara appeared next to his brother. He looked at Naruto coldly, eyes narrowing slightly when the blonde did not move an inch from the glare. Instead he seemed faintly amused, a shadow of a smile playing at his lips. It was unnerving. Your name, the redhead said to him. Naruto, the blonde replied. And from the look of it, you're the famous Sabaku no Gaara. How do you know about me? Your friends don't seem to know, Gaara asked, crossing his arms, his eyes hardening and sinking deep into Naruto, yet not getting any closer. Naruto walked closer until he stood right in front of Gaara. The others stared at the two in shock. Temari and Kankuro probably shocked Gaara had not attacked Naruto yet and his teammates and the kids for daring walk close to a stranger. He smiled, leaned in a bit and said quietly. A Jinchuriki always know another one of its kind. Gaara's eyes widened the tiniest bit. You got one-tailed, I got the nine-tailed, Naruto continued in the same hushed voice. Meet me at midnight by the waterfall, you know where it is. He walked away. Oh, they were fine. Yes, they were, Gaara, Naruto said for the 5th time. They're kids. You're implying my older siblings are small? Gaara asked, hands on his hips as he tried stare down Naruto. Not implying, I'm stating a fact, the blonde said, not giving in. Besides, they looked kinda cute. Temari and Kankuro doesn't fit in with the description. Cute, Gaara deadpanned. Oh, I don't know about that, the blonde said as he fixed up the scrolls. Kankuro's hat's cute. You're insane, the redhead informed. Been there, done that, he said and got up. Hey, what time is it? 10 to midnight, Shikamaru said. Better get going, Naruto said. See you guys later. A salute, then he was gone. Shikamaru blinked, turned to Gaara. Going where? He asked. Don't ask. Oh, Gaara turned around, sand ready when he saw the blonde. He lowered his hand. Naruto jumped down and sat on a stone a bit away from the redhead, not too far away yet not too close. You're a Jinchuriki, Gaara said. Yes. Nine-tail, Kyuubi. The strongest one. According to himself, Naruto said. Kyuubi screeched, but the blonde shut him up with a mental slap. Shukaku won't let you sleep. If I sleep, he will devour my soul and sanity. That means he doesn't let you sleep. What does it matter to you? We're not friends, the redhead said. I'm no one's friend. With that lovely attitude of yours I can understand it, the blonde said. Do you want to die? Gaara growled. Try it, Naruto said and looked at Gaara. Let's see who walks away here alive. The teen from Suna looked him over and then took a step closer. Naruto did not move. Gaara moved slow, hesitant, but soon enough he carefully got down on his knees in front of Naruto, looked up at him. The blonde looked surprised. He sure had not anticipated this course of action from the Suna shinobi. Show me your real face, Gaara said. You don't look like that. You sure you want that? I know you're older. I can feel it. Shukaku can feel it. You're older, and you're not supposed to be here. The blonde rose up and closed his eyes, releasing the henge. He cracked his shoulders and neck as he grew back to his normal looks. He sighed softly and said, "That's better. It's cramp in that small-ass body." Gaara stared at the man who had appeared in place of the skinny-looking boy. Blindingly white, he would describe this man at first sight. Then, that he knew this man. Family. He got up and suddenly Shukaku got quiet, real quiet. The redhead even got a bit nervous. He's quiet, isn't he? Gaara looked up at Naruto, who smiled a bit and said, "He feels Kyuubi, and is scared shitless, 'cause Kyuubi ain't so happy with him right now. Come here." The teen did not hesitate, stepping forward, letting the blonde place his cool hands on either side of Gaara's head, cradling his temples and letting his own forehead touch Gaara's tattooed one. There was warmth and comfort, something he thought he had lost. "Gaara." "Yeah." His voice sounded a bit younger. He was looking into those blue eyes, not daring to close them. "Be nice to Kankuro and Tamari. They love you. Don't scare them away. You know you don't want that. Be nice, and you'll see they'll be nice too." "Are you going to be nice to me too?" Gaara asked. "I'll always be," Naruto said with a smile, feeling at ease. "Tell your siblings not to listen to what Sound has to say." "How did you know?" "Don't ask me, just trust me. Sound, Orochimaru, he will use you and then throw you away. Show him you're not his toys. He's killed your cage." Gaara's eyes widened a bit at that. "I never knew when it was," Naruto said. "And then I found out, but by then, it was already too late. We found his body not long ago. But the cage is here. No, it's Orochimaru in disguise. Don't worry about him, I and my friends will stop him. You focus on protecting your siblings." Gaara found himself nodding. "Good," the man said and stepped back. "Oh, and one thing. Can we keep this?" He pointed at himself, "a secret?" "Yeah," the redhead said. "Good. I hope you will meet my friends soon. One of them is redheaded, has a tattoo like yours, but he knows what it means to love and trust someone else than yourself." The teen looked confused for a moment, then understood and gaped. Naruto looked up at the sky and said, "Time for me to go back. Try to sleep some, Gaara. Shukaku won't do anything, and if he does, contact me again and I'll make sure he never dares interrupt your sleep again." And just like that, Naruto was gone. "Oh, Chunin exams, aren't we a bit too young for that?" Sakura asked anxiously. "You are," Naruto thought miserably. "You've shown a lot of strength so far," Kakashi said, his eye curved in his normal eye smile. "This is the applications, and if you want to take the exams, just fill out the form. The exams start in 2 days, so you're free until then." And just like that, the man was gone. Naruto stared at the spot the copy nin just had occupied, and had to remind himself this was completely normal Kakashi behavior. Why was he surprised? Maybe it was because it had been over 10 years since he had seen it. Whatever. He looked at the application, then over at Sakura and Sasuke. "Are you going to fill it out, Sasuke-kun?" Sakura asked sweetly. "We all have to fill it out," Naruto said. "The whole team has to participate." "What do you know about it, Naruto baka?" He resisted the urge to smack her over the head and tell her to be respectful to an elder. He was supposed to be her age. Instead he just looked at her, muttered, "Pinky screeching bitch," under his breath and turned to walk away. "Are you going to fill it out?" Sasuke asked to his back and the blonde glanced over at him. "What? You too much of a chicken not to?" he asked, knowing based on that comment alone Sasuke would fill it out. Even if the teen didn't want to. He made that remark with a small smile, letting the Uchiha know he was not completely serious. Seeing a flash in those black eyes, a mix of amusement and anger, Naruto chuckled and walked away. Thawing the Ice Prince was kinda fun. Oh, Tamari and Kankuro were officially freaking out when Baki came back from meeting the Cage. What's wrong? He asked them. Tamari only pointed at a door, hand trembling. Kankuro managed to get out. Gaara. Baki whirled around to the door, wondering what sight he will be met by. Bloodshed. Sand everywhere, crazy eyes. He wrenched it open, saw it and promptly leaned to the door to not fall flat on his ass. Gaara was curled up on the bed, sound asleep and a blanket drawn over his shoulders. His hands were tucked to his chest, and the way he had curled up on reminded Baki of a child. A comfortably sleeping child. He wondered briefly if the ending of the world was coming, then shook his head and straightened up. The gourd stood by the end of the bed. It had been a long time since he had seen it anywhere beside Gaara's back. How long has he been sleeping? He asked the two. I don't know, Tamari said. But over 4 hours. He hasn't stirred once while we've been watching. And he was nice to me when I went to get some water last night. Not fake nice, real nice. Kankuro nodded jerkily, still in shock. Baki turned around and watched the youngest team member for a bit. Then he gently closed the door and said, let him sleep. He hasn't gone crazy on us yet, so let him sleep. Oh, Naruto was itching, and speeding. He couldn't sleep. He was practically vibrating on the spot, sitting cross-legged on his bed. He had to do something. Anything. Getting up and rushing out from the apartment took him little effort, and soon Naruto was speeding over the rooftops in his real body, looking as Shiroi. He knew guards could see him but was fairly certain the normal guards had seen him before and would not raise a fuss. He came to the training grounds and stopped, breathing deeply, feeling the air clear his head and tilted his face upwards. Pulling out one of his scrolls, he opened it and looked down at the various seals and symbols, summoning one and rolling up the scroll with practiced ease. He put it away and held the katana in one hand, checking the edge. Razor sharp, just like the last time he had checked it. He spent the following hour practicing, slashing the katana through the air and sometimes clones, whirling around in a graceful dance he had mastered years ago, never missing a beat of the rhythm. What Naruto did not notice was that Kakashi was watching. The man had noticed the blonde man jumping on the roofs, following after to try understanding the mysterious man he had seen only twice. He wondered how many knew about him and the other two, that Akai and Kuroi. But for now, he watched Shiroi engage in a dance with blades, the strikes fast and deadly, and the copy nin had never seen anyone fight like that. Naruto fell to one knee after 1 hour of no stopping, panting hard. He stood kneeling for a minute or two, head bowed low with the end of the katana stuck in the ground. Then he pulled himself up along with the sword and breathed deeply, sweat trickling down his face. He looked up at the star-filled sky and felt calm. He would sleep well, if he went to Gaara and Shikamaru. He was not going to that ass-cramped apartment if he could help it. He muttered a few words and with a poof of smoke the katana returned to its rightful place. Naruto began walking, noticed Kakashi and tensed up. The man could not follow him to the house. Kakashi would set 2 and 2 together and figure them out. Stargazing, Kakashi-san. He called out. The copy nin froze in place, then laughed sheepishly as he jumped down. Couldn't help but watch, Shiroi-san, he said, still a bit unfamiliar with the title. But if it ease your mind, I was stargazing originally until you showed up. I apologize for interrupting, the man said and looked over at Kakashi. The copy nin was lying but Naruto let it slide. Sleep evaded my mind. You too, huh? Shiroi looked over at him and could not help a small smile. How did you know about Zabuza? Kakashi asked. I have my ways, he replied. No one knew here in Konoha. A bird whispered in my ear, Shiroi said with a shrug. Kakashi stared at him, and he smiled as he continued, Secrets are meant to be kept secret, Kakashi-san. I came, I helped, that should satisfy you. Are you working for the Hokage? The blonde looked at him. Who else would I work for? He asked. There are a lot of people in this village wanting to take over. But all of them, too weak, Shiroi said. Arrogant, yes, greedy, yes, but powerful. No. You say you are, the copy nin said as they began to walk. It doesn't matter if, or what I am, Shiroi said. Humor me. Naruto looked over at Kakashi, saw him look upwards and decided to indulge the man a little bit. Kuroi and Akai don't understand why I bow to a weakling, saying I can snap the Hokage's neck with a clenching of my fist. I beg to differ, but of course, I don't know my own limit. Why are you bowing then? Naruto stopped a bit ahead of Kakashi, thinking. I made a promise. To protect. Besides, Sarutobi-sama is not so bad. But Akai and Kuroi still call you Sama. Aren't you supposed to be equal? Have you even tried to make the wind stop howling? Or the sky to stop being blue? Stubborn as mules, 10 times over those two, Shiroi muttered. When he turned around, Kakashi was watching him, debating what to ask next. But it was enough chatting. He wanted sleep and Kakashi could not know all yet. I bid you farewell, and a calm night, Naruto said. A storm is rising, and if we cannot stop it soon, the tide will ride too high for us to be stopped. What do you mean? Kakashi asked, eye-wide. But the blonde was already gone. Oh, Team 7 met each outside the building some time before the exam would begin. The three looked at each other, Sakura looking a bit nervous while Naruto looked between them both. Sasuke just jerked his head to the door and they went inside. Naruto barely remembered what happened last time. 20 years had passed and he had suppressed most of it, but it was rather straightforward, a simple genjutsu hiding the real place for the exam and the meeting with Lee's team. He gazed at the three fondly even as Lee began fawning after Sakura and Neji glaring at Sasuke, Sasuke glaring right back at him. Tenten sighed in misery and caught his eyes. He mirrored her movement and she smiled a bit at him. Chuckling, he took the necks of his teammates, Sakura shouting at Lee and Sasuke glaring, and hauled them off to find the real exam room. As they came into the room, everyone turned to look at them. Naruto could see clear in their eyes they pretended to be bigger and meaner than them. He was so not impressed and pushed the two to the rest of the rookie 9. They all began to chatter but he took no part of it. Seeing Gaara, he waited until the redhead saw him and then the whole team seemed to lighten up a bit. He weaved his way over to Naruto, Temari and Kankuro trailing after. Naruto looked behind himself and saw Kabuto. Pressing down the urge to kill the man right there and then, he steeled himself and moved over to Gaara. He would have his chance later. Naruto, the redhead said, even smiling a bit. It was weird to see young Gaara smile a normal smile but the blonde could get used to it. Gaara, he said with a grin. This your team, my siblings, Temari and Kankuro. The two looked at him in awe, and something told him that Gaara had changed after meeting him. Good. Gaara deserved it. Where's your team? Naruto waved a hand vaguely at the direction of the chatter and cringed as he heard Ino and Sakura break out in a fight. They're kinda loud, Temari said with a wrinkle of her nose. They're just kids, Naruto said, as if he was defended an armful of 5-year-olds. You're a kid too, she said. Am I? He asked with a smile, and somehow she saw age in those blue eyes, belonging to a man not a child. Before she could say anything, Ibiki walked into the room. Naruto closed his eyes as the test begun, tapping the pen against the desk gently as if he was just thinking while he was running through mental commands to release a technique, hearing faint whispers from Shikamaru and Gaara the older ones when they were doing the same. Connection and suddenly Shikamaru's voice. First question, Blondie. Don't call me that, Naruto protested in his mind before he opened his eyes, scanning the questions. He spoke the first one and waited. Easy, Gaara said and said the answer. Shouldn't you know it? You know I suck at this stuff, Naruto replied. Plus you hate thinking when you got us to do all your job, Shikamaru whined. You got me there. I hate you so much. Second, spill it. Oh. Naruto sighed in relief as Anko appeared, glad to see Sakura hadn't really put up her hand this time in favor for him. It was not like he needed to take the exams, but Orochimaru would appear and he could as well be in the forest when the snake did. Plus Sasuke and Sakura earned a chance, well, maybe not Sakura. Not yet. She had to grow up a bit more before that, otherwise she would die young and stupid. Moving to follow Anko, they all came to the fences that separated them from the forest of death. Naruto looked beyond the fence, not feeling the same nervousness as before. He knew there was nothing in that forest that was dangerous to him. He barely managed to catch that they were gathering here tomorrow to start the second exam, and then everyone began to scatter. His eyes slid over the faces, and then narrowed as he saw Orochimaru in his disguise. Noticing his hands were twitching, he clenched them. The rookie 9 were suddenly gathered around him and chatting, or in Ino's and Sakura's case, arguing. Naruto rolled his eyes at them, and wanted out. But it seemed like the others were determined to have him stay, most of all to ask him if he understood the questions and blah, blah, blah. He couldn't bother with listening, and was saved from it. They all grew quiet and stared at someone behind Naruto. He turned and came face to face with younger Gaara. The Suna shinobi tilted his head and then said, Tamari wanted to know if you wanted to have dinner with us. Sure, the blonde said with a grin. Lead the way. The redhead smiled timidly and Naruto mentally patted himself on the back for a job well done. Oh, he wasn't really surprised at seeing Baki there with the two older Sabakus, and the way his eyes narrowed when seeing Naruto. I had to tell him about the cage, Gaara said. I'm sorry if that. No, it's okay. I expected it. It's okay, Naruto said. He walked up to them with Gaara at his side down, plopped down and smiled at the three of them. Yo. He saluted with his hand. At the same time, a cloud of smoke surrounded him, as he knew it was safe to show his real self. Once the smoke cleared away, the three reared back a bit while Gaara smiled at him. I like you more that way, he said. You're saying I looked horrible as a brat? Naruto asked. You really looked like that when you were young. The redhead said, blinking. Not really, I looked a lot more stupid, the man admitted. Kyuubi agreed, and that earned him a kick in the head. Growling, the demon rubbed his sore head and stuck out his tongue at Naruto. He was kindly ignored as Naruto turned back to the real world. Che, you're so boring, brat. Warning you, Q-chan. Q-chan. Yep. Kyuubi screamed in outrage but Naruto ignored him. Who are you? Baki asked as he had recovered from his shock. Naruto's eyes moved over to him. An ally, he replied. That's all. Gaara looked up at the house and then at Naruto, deep inside his green eyes awe shone. The blonde was dressed in those blindingly white clothes again, shining like an angel Gaara didn't believe in and now did, a bloodied angel perhaps and without wings but his angel nonetheless. Ready to meet them? Naruto asked, blue eyes gazing into his. Family. They were family. For the blonde man, Gaara would do anything. Yeah, he answered, and smiled. Oh, it was a bit weird being checked over by an older version of himself but Gaara was not about to start complaining, just staring at the older redheaded man and his tattoo as he stared right back. Alright, this is one of the freakiest things I've seen lately, Shikamaru commented from his spot and Naruto promptly smacked him over the head. What? It is. The blonde only shook his head before taking a sip of his tea, Kyuubi's chakra rumbling inside of him, slightly vibrating through the three people in the house. They felt no hatred or fear but only warmth from the chakra, and looked over at Naruto. The man sat with his eyes closed, the cup of tea against his temple and Kyuubi relaxing his tense muscles with whispers alone. Red and hot chakra pulsed just underneath his skin, and Shikamaru sat down next to him. Don't worry, he reassured the younger Gaara. This happens from time to time. It won't get out of the house and alert anyone, the older Gaara said. But in our time, man, it freaked some people out. And best part is, he here didn't care, Shikamaru said and poked at Naruto. Why should I? Naruto asked, opening one eye to look at the brunette. They didn't give me a reason to do it. True, Shikamaru said and nodded. So what's your big plan for tomorrow? Keep Orochimaru away from Sasuke. We can kill him, you know. Not in the forest with all those kids in it. Gotta wait. Since when did you care about kids? The older Gaara asked, sitting down and patting the spot next to him so his younger version could sit down as well. It would be annoying, Naruto said even as the younger Gaara sat down next to them. Having to apologize for killing everyone's genins. The two remaining from the future considered this and then agreed. So when are we killing him? For killing him we will, Shikamaru said. Third exams because I doubt he's gonna stay if we stop him in the second exam, Naruto said. Before he can kill Sandame. Gaara looked at the three-time traveler's plan, hearing them go through techniques that made even him gape, and he wondered just how strong they were. Oh, new day dawned bright and early, and Naruto was waiting for his teammates to arrive. Once again in his younger form, he had squatted down and was now drawing circles in the sand with his finger. It was boring to wait and not have anything to do. Kyuubi rumbled in him and he quieted the demon down. It would do no good if any of the Junins would hear or feel Kyuubi, that would just spell lots of trouble to him, trouble he had no interest in dealing with. Naruto. He looked up as the shadow came over him, and looked into Sasuke's black eyes. Morning, he replied. Yeah, Sasuke replied and sat down next to him. Naruto raised an eyebrow, unusual behavior for the Ice Prince. How was it with Gaara yesterday? It was good, Naruto said. He's not as bad as you'd think. Sasuke only nodded and let the blonde continue drawing circles. Oh, Naruto wondered when Sakura would stop talking. They had begun the second exam and she wouldn't shut up. Just grabbed Sasuke's arm, and talked, and fucking talked. He had the urge to turn around, walk up her, smack her over the head and tell her to act her age but refrained. He knew what she was. Nervous. And when Sakura was nervous, she started talking, listing things she had read, as if thinking that would help her. Well, guess what? It wouldn't. Russell. Quiet. Naruto hissed and to his surprise the girl shut up. Sasuke shook her arm off and they walked up to the blonde. Where? Sasuke said, looking around. I heard it too but couldn't pinpoint it. Left. Naruto said. Let's get up in the trees. Yeah. Sakura followed willingly, now not so brave she had been during the first exam. That had been her element. This, not so much. Not yet. Naruto landed on a branch and listened. Whoever had caught Sakura's voice had not followed them. It could have been Orochimaru. No, as much as Naruto hated the man he had to admit the guy was powerful in his own right. He would not allow any genins to hear him. Whoever this was, it was another team or a scout to another team. Sasuke and Sakura landed on the branch next to him. They had gotten away from whoever it had been. Good. All they had to do now was to get a scroll opposite of there. They had gotten an earth scroll, which meant they had to get a heaven scroll to pass. What should we start with? Sakura asked, fidgeting. Get a bit further in I guess, and then set up camp, Naruto replied. We're going to be here for 5 days, so we don't have to do it in a rush. What? You even listened to the instructions? Sakura said. The blonde felt his eyebrow twitch but replied through clenched teeth. Yeah, I actually did. What? You surprised I actually got a brain? Let's get moving. Oh, the first night Naruto stayed up, looking over the forest and stretching out his chakra. He felt groups near there, albeit faintly, and wondered if he would go and accidentally get a heaven scroll. No, his 2 team members had to work a bit for it. He had done this all already and knew he could get it. Sasuke and Sakura needed to train a lot more than him. Yo. He looked up and Shikamaru grinned at him. Naruto was seated in a tree, and by the roots of it Sasuke and Sakura rested. Yo! He replied, and the man jumped down on the branch, dressed in complete black. He sat down more comfortably and Naruto continued, Gaara. Watching the kids, Shikamaru and pointed down. Good. We found Orochimaru. He's not far from here. I know, that's why I set up a barrier. Good call. We're gonna track him, make sure he stays away from you guys. That's great, Naruto said. If he really gives a lot of trouble, capture him and take him away. Roger that, Shikamaru said and grinned again. You watch over them. Someone has to do it, Naruto said. They'll be fine, you and Gaara better get going. Alright, Shikamaru said and jumped down from the tree. Naruto saw Gaara follow him as they left and he also jumped down to have a better look where the two were. If anyone approached them, he would know. Oh, when Sasuke and Sakura woke up in the morning, the first thing they saw was Naruto sitting on a log eating something. What's that? Sasuke asked as he sat up. Ration bars, Naruto said and took another bite. Doesn't taste much but it keeps you satisfied. You guys want one? Sure, Sasuke said, not feeling to run around and get breakfast consisting of some berries or whatever. Sakura nodded as she got up. Naruto fished up two from his pack and threw them to his team, then went back to his own. They glanced at him one more time, and he knew they had not expected him to bring any with him. Having lived on them for years during missions, he knew better than to forget them. He swallowed the last piece along with some water and then rose up. There should be other teams nearby, he said to the two of them. We're going to run into a team who had the scroll we need eventually. Yeah, Sasuke said. Who's going to be in charge of ours? I can, Naruto said. The two looked at him. I'm not going to drop it, I swear. Who did they take him for? An idiot. Well, a few months ago he had been an idiot. Shaking it off mentally, he stared back at the two. Sasuke unpacked the earth scroll and threw it over to Naruto. He pretended to pack it into his backpack while in reality he sealed it within a scroll that went into his pouch on the back of his hip. Rising up again and pulling the backpack on, he saw the two were getting ready. Alright, Sasuke said. Let's go and get ourselves a scroll then. The teams had managed disguising themselves rather well, and their second day in the forest soon came to an end with the darkness, and no scroll. During the night when Naruto had kept watch, the team's signals had disappeared one after another, so they probably used something to hide themselves. Nonetheless, he knew the next day they would find a team. If he so had to chase down said team himself. He took charge of watching that night too, despite Sakura's and Sasuke's protests. He promised them he would not fall asleep, he was too wired up to sleep anyway. The moment they fell asleep he placed a barrier around them, keeping them safe and trusting Gaara and Shikamaru to look over them. Naruto himself. He had a few barriers to knock down. What training would Sakura and Sasuke get if they had no way of sensing the teams? Oh, the two rose up early and once more saw Naruto sitting and eating one of those ration bars. He did not look tired at all. You are weird, Sasuke concluded as he got up from the ground. Why's that? Naruto asked. You aren't any tired at all. Not really. Should I be? Sasuke looked at him a little longer, then shook his head and got his backpack on. Naruto grinned a bit and rose up as well. So, shall we go find ourselves a team to knock out? Oh, defeating a team from grass had been surprisingly easy, and Naruto had not even needed to help except for knocking one of the guys out who were giving Sakura a hard time. And really, he had just dropped down from a branch he was sitting on, landing with his feet on the man's head. Not his fault if the man couldn't handle it. And no, there was no reason to bring up the fact he had made his feet feel like a piece of concrete. Sasuke rooted through the other team's bags and finally produced a scroll. He held it up for them to see. Heaven. Naruto could not believe their luck, but for safety he said. Could it be a genjutsu on it? Maybe. the Ice Prince said. I can check, Sakura said, and the two gave in, knowing she was a bit better in genjutsu than them. Naruto had been taught by Kurenai, but it was more about battle genjutsus, not this kind. Plus he would probably make the scroll explode even with his good chakra control. He did not have the patience for this kind of stuff. Sakura could confirm it was real and it was given to Naruto so he would guard both. So now all we have to do is protect the scrolls and make it to the tower, Sasuke said. Yeah, Naruto said. We should camp near the tower. Why not go there directly? Sakura asked. We have to be outdoors at least 2 or 3 days. We've been here for 2 and it's kinda looking suspicious if we come way too early, so we camp out one more night and then I guess we'll go to the tower, Naruto said. Come on, place is gonna be crawling with other teams soon. The tower is north, so let's head that way, Sasuke said. Take the lead, the blonde said, and that was what the Uchiha did. When Naruto knew they were not looking, he made 10 clones that would circulate them along the road in alert of danger before following the two. Oh, Naruto was surprised how long Orochimaru had waited until approaching them. They were having a small break around lunchtime when he felt the man's chakra. Looking up, he stretched out his own and connected with Gaara and Shikamaru. They were watching every breath the snake took. Good. He glanced back at Sakura and Sasuke. They needed to be safe somewhere. He had to change into Shiroi, and make it look like they were patrolling if someone saw them. He kinda regretted now they had not told Sarutobi more about what they knew, but releasing too many details would give the poor man a heart attack. He had yet to know that they were time travelers, but there were pieces in the scroll he had been given that would point to that fact. You just had to pick that up. Naruto hoped by the time they met again Sarutobi had figured it out. He wanted the man to figure out so they could speak more freely. Plus he could reveal what had happened to the child Naruto. Although he was not really sure of the details himself. Damn Kyuubi. I heard that. Duh, that was kinda the point. I think I'm offended. Well then, I guess you are. Looking at the two teens again, Naruto stood up and began walking away. Where are you going? Sasuke asked. Taking a leak, he answered. Be back in a few. Disappearing behind a few bushes, he made the copy of himself and then shrugged away the henge from himself. Now in his normal white outfit and long hair, he disappeared from the spot, the copy already knowing what to do. He jumped down behind Shikamaru. The snakes watching them, the man said without turning around. Waiting for his chance. Well, he won't get one, Naruto said. Where's Gaara? Even closer, the black-haired man said. Probably giving him the creeps by staring right into the back of his skull. Hey, there's nothing wrong with Gaara's stare. It's hell to be under it, Shikamaru said and shuddered. Yeah, that's kinda the whole point. Should we take him out now? As in kill him? Yeah, no, you know that. If we fight him full out, it'll be a lot of damage. Later, during the third exams or sooner if we manage. We'll restrain him for now, letting him know he can't have Sasuke. There was no way he would let Sasuke have to carry that cursed seal again. The brat had already enough on his mind. Shikamaru nodded at that and Naruto motioned with his hand to take him to Gaara. Soon the two landed behind the redhead, who did not greet them other than stretch up his hand, eyes not leaving Orochimaru. The man kept looking around and Shikamaru chuckled. He can probably feel us a bit and wonders where the hell we are, he said. Alright, Naruto said. Let's do this. Oh, Orochimaru tried to relax as he turned back his eyes to the three genins. Well, one was a clone, but he didn't know that, but it was not that easy. It felt like someone was staring at him and it was beginning to get on his nerves. Not to mention it was a bit creepy. Wherever he turned, he discovered nothing but a faint tug at something, or someone. The moment he tried to strengthen it so he could pinpoint where the person was, it retreated just out of his reach. That was getting annoying. Hello, snake. He whirled around and got a kick to the stomach that made his breath catch. How the hell? He recovered quickly though and looked up to see his attacker. Blackness was one good word to describe the man. The only thing that was not black was the man's skin that was a complete contrast to his clothing and hair, nearly white. Then Orochimaru saw the shadows by his feet. They were twisting, climbing upwards on his legs and whirled around in the air in small curls. Are you a Nara? He asked as he slowly stood up. That's a good question, the man replied. Am I? He stretched out a hand and shadows flew out from him, making Orochimaru leap back to avoid it. The moment he landed, sand wrapped around his ankles tightly and he growled out. That Biju from Suna. No. A man appeared in front of him, red-headed and red-eyed, looking at him coldly as in contrast of his fierce redness. He was also dressed in red that made him stick out in the surrounding environment. That boy, the man continued, is far nicer than me. Orochimaru observed the two of them as the black-haired one stepped closer. What should we do with him, Akai? He said as he reached the redhead. Keep him in place, until the children are safe. Who are you? He hissed at them. Patrollers from Konoha. You actually stay in Konoha whilst having all this power. The power to actually pin him down with no effort. They were no mere Junins, they were something else. With your powers, you could do so much. He tried to get out from the hold but the sand would not let go, would not let him get away. He had never heard of anyone else than Sabaku no Gaara to be able to control sand so much. We do what we want. Our reasons are our own. A third voice. A rustle behind him, and a man stepped down next to him before going over to the other two. Orochimaru could not help but stare. One in complete black, one in red, and now one in white. The white-dressed man turned around and looked at the snake-like man with ice-blue eyes, locks of blonde hair falling down his face, the rest trickling down his back. There was something about these three that Orochimaru had never seen before. You are going to get out of this forest, the white-clothed man said, without harming anyone or anything. Without even touching anyone. What? Just like that, Orochimaru said. Of course we'll make sure of that, the blonde said and his lips twisted into a smile. Don't think we'll let you out of our sight. We will watch every breath you take, Orochimaru, until the very last one. The man felt as if it was the sand that actually held him up at this point. The voice in combination with those chilly eyes made his legs weak from fear. Him, the great Orochimaru was terrified of a man he did not even know the name of. Fine, he said. I'll go, not forever though. I will have Sandaime killed, and Sasuke on my side. Who are you? I'm Akai, the redhead said. Kuroi, the black-clothed one said. Shiroi, the blonde said. We are warriors loyal to the future. Kuroi snickered at this but Orochimaru was too busy to wishing he was getting out from the forest alive that he did not try to question why. Shiroi looked over at Akai who released Orochimaru from the sand's clutches with a mere wave. Leave, Shiroi said to the sound leader. If you don't, at this he looked over at Kuroi who smiled. I can kill him then. The black-dressed man said happily. Shiroi rolled his eyes. Oh, sorry, stupid question I guess. So, Orochimaru, if you haven't done what we feel satisfying, you are to die by my hand. He looked positively giddy at the prospect and Orochimaru was not about to indulge him. He was gone a moment later. Follow him, Naruto told Shikamaru, who only saluted and vanished as well. Gaara and Naruto looked at each other. I guess I should go back to my team. I'll stay close, Gaara said and Naruto nodded before vanishing. Oh, Sakura and Sasuke were none the wiser about Naruto being gone and he slid back effortlessly behind them. They did not even notice anything and he sighed, they needed a lot more training to become skilled shinobis. But then again, he was not just a careless genin but someone who had fought for the better part of his life. Maybe he should cut them some slack. Suddenly he felt Gaara the younger's chakra spike up and stopped abruptly. This Sakura and Sasuke noticed, and they stopped. Naruto, what's wrong? Sakura asked. Shukaku's being a pain in the ass, Kyuubi informed the man. Great. Naruto looked over at the two and said, nothing. Just had this feeling. He looked over to the side where he saw Gaara appear for a moment. Their eyes spoke. Gaara nodded once, and then he vanished. Naruto turned back to them. Probably just chakra from someone else in the forest, he said. Shall we continue? Sasuke now felt it too but nodded. He had no interest in engage in any fights with the person who had this heavy chakra. Gaara, now in the guise as a Kai, jumped between branches, rapidly making his way over to his younger version, which apparently had let Shukaku take the leading role for a moment. Well, anything that involved killing and blood, Shukaku would be a glad volunteer on that one. At least this time's Shukaku. The older Gaara's Biju, he had learned his lesson. Arriving at the scene, Akai assessed the situation. He felt Team 8 from Konoha, Hinata, Kiba and Shino, and then looked over at his younger self. The younger Gaara was going to kill those three genin from Rain unless Akai stopped him. But how? There were no rules against killing, but Akai did not want to see his younger self completely vanish like that. So he focused instead, sending out his chakra to connect with Gaara's. Through the red haze that was Shukaku came a fresh breeze, and Gaara opened his eyes wide. His older self. Without thinking, he released the man from the sand and looked around before realizing what he was doing. He was about to kill someone again. In cold blood, he closed his eyes tightly, sending a mental thanks to his other self for the wake-up call. Tamari, Kankuro, he said quietly. Let's go. The two relaxed at seeing it was him again, and nodded. They vanished the moment after that, and the team from Rain who just escaped death could not help but collapse on the spot, weak from feeling that killer intent. Team 8 gave all a sigh of relief. Oh, Naruto was not so comfortable letting either of his teammates keeping watch the third night, but he knew Gaara was nearby and therefore let Sasuke take the watch. He lay awake for long periods of time though, watching their surroundings. Oi, Naruto. He blinked and peered over his shoulder at Sasuke. You can relax, you know, the black-haired teen said. Nothing's going to happen. I guess adrenaline's keeping me awake, Naruto said. And paranoia, he added in his head. Well, try to sleep. You haven't rested at all ever since we entered, and that was 2 days ago. That was true. Naruto shrugged and lay back down, closing his eyes and willing his body to relax along with his mind, if just for an hour or two. Oh, he was woken up by a gentle shaking of his shoulder, and opened his eyes blearily to look up at Sasuke. It was morning and the sun shone faintly through the thick roof of leaves and branches. Yo, Sasuke said with an almost smile. When I said you should try, I didn't mean that deep. Sorry, he said with a yawn and sat up. Sakura was nibbling on some berries she had found, looking around the surrounding forest. So, the tower today? Yeah, the Ice Prince said, still sitting crouched by his side. No use camping out any longer than necessary. Should we get going? Sakura asked, and Sasuke rose up even as Naruto got up as well. Best if we do, Naruto said and glanced around. Gaara was to his left, his chakra indicated he had had no rest at all. The man had to sleep some time. Shukaku in the older Gaara knew better than to start messing with Gaara's sleep. Naruto figured he would talk to the man once they arrived at the tower in the forest. Let's go. You're not going to eat? Sasuke asked. No, I'm good. He got his backpack on and looked at the two before jumping up in a tree. He felt them following and set to the direction of the tower. Oh, well, don't you look haggard. The three startled, then whipped around. Kakashi's eye smile greeted them, as he stood a bit leaned down, hands on his knees. Iruka, who had been brought to them by opening the two scrolls inside of the tower, shook his head at the man. There was no need to frighten his own students. Although Kakashi, compared to Iruka himself, was a hell of a lot kinder when it came to scaring. Just look at yourself, Naruto said. You haven't been reading Ika Ika Paradise lately, you're trembling from the withdrawal, aren't you? Kakashi got up, but at the smug look on Naruto's face he could not help but laugh a little. You got that one, Naruto. You guys are here awfully early. We had it easy, Sasuke said with a shrug. Yeah, and we didn't run into freaking Snake Man on our way here, Naruto added. You're lucky then, you get to relax for quite a bit until the ending has come. You're the fourth team to arrive. Fourth, Sakura said, and both her teammates winced at the sound. Please, no more screeching, then, who came here before us? Dunno the two latest, but I do know the first one. A team from Suna, Kakashi said. Sabaku no Gaara's team. Gaara. Naruto perked up at this. Do we have to stick together while waiting for the others? No, the man said. Why? Then I'll go and see how it went for them. Later. With that, he ran off at the direction where he felt the Suna siblings' chakras. As he rounded the corner, the older Gaara became visible. Naruto slowed down and waited until Gaara caught up with him. You look like shit, he commented. You should go ahead and get some sleep. Maybe, Gaara said. I won't need more than an hour. Take your time, I won't go to sleep for a while. Just use our normal way when you're coming back, I'll see if I can get in contact with Shikamaru. Gaara nodded and vanished again, and Naruto started down the hallway. Oh, they had been given a room with 3 beds in to rest in until the rest of teams had arrived, and now the 3 had gathered there to just relax. Or technically, 2. Naruto had other things to do. Walking down the halls as Shiroi, he was making his way to one of the meeting rooms, where Sarutobi had requested his presence along with Kuroi and Akai. He had already talked to Shikamaru and the man was leaving a shadow. Naruto never really understood what it was, but it was something good, so he never investigated further than that. A whisper of wind behind him, and Akai walked behind him. In the next moment, shadows floated up and soon Kuroi was next to them. You good to go? Shiroi asked. The black-haired man had after all been up for some time. Yep, Kuroi replied. Might need a nap a little later. I can take over watching over Orochimaru, Akai said. He's outside of Konoha now. I don't think he's coming back until later. Either way, Shiroi said, we're keeping surveillance on him. We'll divide it later. You got it, Kuroi said, and they came to the doors that would lead them into the meeting room. Shiroi knocked. Enter. The 3 entered and saw the Hokage was alone in the room. They bowed when Sarutobi turned around. Close the door, please, he said. I've read the letter again. The scroll lay open before him on the desk. And, Shiroi asked, who are you, really? He asked as he looked at the 3 of them. This letter suggests things no one but a time traveler from the future might know. Unless you make all this up, or see into the future. 3 possibilities, 2 are wrong, Shiroi said. One is plain absurd, the other more or less impossible, the third one, unlikely to occur but not unheard of. Do you always speak so difficult? The aged man groaned as he sat down. I pick the first option. Time travelers. Yes. Now tell me your full names. Shiroi made a sign to Kuroi, who nodded and clapped his hands once. No one besides Sarutobi-sama will hear what we say now, he confirmed to the blonde. Good. Then I guess we'll reintroduce ourselves. Sarutobi looked at the 3 men, waiting. Kuroi turned to the man, bowed and said. Nara Shikamaru. Then Akai's turn. Sabaku no Gaara. Shiroi. And I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Sarutobi's jaw dropped. Whatever he had expected, this was not one of them. Previously, Sarutobi looked at the 3 men, waiting. Kuroi turned to the man, bowed and said. Nara Shikamaru. Then Akai's turn. Sabaku no Gaara. Shiroi. And I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Sarutobi's jaw dropped. Whatever he had expected, this was not one of them. The man had to take a few moments to collect himself. The 3 time travelers waited patiently. Or rather, he needed more than a few moments. He sat silent for a while, easing his heart back to his normal rhythm as he watched the 3 each in turn. Now when he thought about it, They bore some resemblance to their younger selves. Finally, he took a deep breath and straightened up a bit. There was no use sitting there and just taking it in. If he really wanted to melt it, he better have them talking about how it happened, why, and what was going to happen next. So the Sandame spoke. You are, from the future. Yes, Shiroi replied. And your younger selves haven't been affected by this. That's, well, Naruto looked at Gaara and Shikamaru, who both shrugged. He was on his own there. He sighed and turned back to Sarutobi, who was eyeing him curiously. Gaara and Shikamaru from this time are unharmed, while Naruto from this time has, I guess, more or less ceased to exist. Sarutobi stared at him. I beg your pardon, he managed at last. Kyuubi doesn't like competition, Naruto said with a shrug. So, he got rid of the other Naruto. Got rid of him. He hasn't told me what he did to that Naruto, okay. The blonde said and threw up his hands. I've been trying to ask him, but the fucking fox just won't slip the lid on this on. So I'm guessing he deleted the brat. You mean yourself, Shikamaru said. Well, I was a brat at this time, Naruto said. Kinda harsh, isn't it? Gaara said. Hey, I'm talking about myself, I'm allowed to be harsh. Sarutobi looked between the three and then hawked. They shut up. Naruto, he said, and the blonde turned to look at him. Whatever happened, happened. That's it. It'll take a little while to take it in, but let's move on for now. I'm guessing you've been impersonating your younger self. That is correct, Naruto said. Call it a selfish desire to be seen, anything else but a loudmouthed brat who didn't know when to shut up. Again, kinda harsh, the redhead said. Naruto calmly smacked him over the head. Ow, what the hell was that for? Sarutobi chuckled at the sight of them, which made them all three snap back to attention. Now I have that cleared up, he said, although he knew he would be thinking about it for time to come, so I guess you know about Orochimaru. Yes, they replied simultaneously. And the fact that he suddenly took off. That actually was kinda us, Naruto said. What did you do? Promised to kill him if he didn't get out, Shikamaru said. We're gonna kill him anyway, but we didn't want to do it in the forest. So it's you guys I have to thank. I nearly shut the second exams down due to him, but now I know we can keep going. His interest lies in Uchiha Sasuke, Naruto said, but he won't get the boy. Why does he want Sasuke? He wants the Sharingan, Naruto replied. He won't get close to Sasuke. He wondered if he was whining that out, like a stubborn child. He hoped not. With that look of yours, Sarutobi said, I don't doubt it one bit. Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke went to the meeting hall where the other teams had gathered. Some had arrived moments ago while others had been able to rest for a bit. Now it was time to see what will happen after the time was up. Naruto already knew, but he could see the others did not. He looked over at Kabuto and felt another urge to walk up and kill the man, yet again holding it down and forcing a heavy lid on it. Nope, not going to do it. Not yet anyway. The information was pretty much the same as always, although Naruto noted Sarutobi looked over at him once, probably to check his disguise. Sorry, old man, he looks to be every bit of a scrawny 12-year-old. Leaving over to Gekko Hayate, the Hokage climbed the stairs up the second level along with the Junins, and now they were informed about the preliminary matches. Naruto looked around, and as before, Kabuto gave up, however this time he was not saying anything against it. The man could go to a rock, crawl underneath it and die for all he cared. Naruto looked up at the screen that began to list through their names, coming up with a random mix, and it stopped with Sasuke and Akado Yoroi. The blonde looked at the Uchiha, got the look returned, and then moved up to the second level with everyone else, leaving the two and Hayate alone on the first level. Now when Sasuke did not have a cursed seal to worry about, there was nothing really Yoroi could do. The Uchiha was too fast for him and caught up with his abilities within a few attacks. The blonde looked on as Sasuke made the same move as the last time, only this time without holding back. He was pretty sure he was grinning as he saw Yoroi smash into the ground, and Sasuke declared the winner. Of course, hearing Ino and Sakura shout about it made Naruto wince, and Kyuubi moaned about his poor ears. Shaking that off, he saw Sasuke had moved up to the second level and Shino moving down along with a sound guy. The guy they had not met up with in the forest like last time. Now, with his arms perfectly fine, Naruto wondered if it really would make any difference. Looking down at the ever-stoic Shino, he was pretty sure it would not. Not even 5 minutes later, Naruto was proved right and Zaku was shipped off to be treated for his injuries. Suddenly, a shadow moved near Naruto's feet. Shikamaru's voice drifted through his mind. Come here for a few minutes, would you? Naruto pretended to go to the bathroom, making a copy of himself that he sent back and who would alert him if his name showed up before he was back. With that done, he morphed back to his usual self and followed Shikamaru's trail until he met up with them both. Both had donned their Akai and Kuroi looks, which was rather good because without them Gaara would be seen as an older Gaara and Shikamaru looked rather alike his young self, and if not that, he would be connected to Shikaku. What is it? He asked. We captured Kabuto before he could get to Orochimaru, Gaara said quietly, arms crossed. Last time it took a lot longer for us to find him. We never really did capture him either. The bastard was dead when we found him, Shikamaru said. We trapped him in our best seals. That should hold him until the end of the world, Naruto said with a smile. Or at least the next 30 years, Gaara said. What should we do with him? Leave him for now. Where is it? In one of the hidden caves we found by the faces of the Hokages. Gaara sealed it shut so only we can come in. Naruto looked over at the redhead. I made it the usual way, Gaara said, and he nodded. For how long are we going to leave him? As long as we can, the blonde said. I don't feel a particular need to see that face of his for a while. Maybe he'll die, Shikamaru said thoughtfully. I mean, he starves to death. You can only hope, Naruto said and shrugged. Anything else? I got Kage Bunshin scouting, Shikamaru said. If Orochimaru or one of his little friends comes closer, I'll know it. And Suna? Gaara asked Naruto. They're not in on it, Naruto said. Baki has informed everyone what has happened, but also ordered for them to pretend. If Orochimaru does get in here, he'll be in for a surprise when Suna turns on him and sound when they need their help. So Gaara, Temari and Kankuro don't have to fight. Except for in the finals, Naruto said. That's good. I mean, they shouldn't be fighting the way we were forced last time, the redhead said. Shouldn't you be going back? Yeah, Naruto said. My name hasn't been called yet, but I don't really know who's fighting. I've kinda forgot the order. Well, it was a while ago, and you are a lot older, Shikamaru said. I sense a hint of sarcasm there, so I advise you, shut up. When he had returned and dismissed his copy, Temari and Tenten's fight was just finishing up with Temari being the winner. At least this time she did not half-kill Tenten, and the weapon mistress could actually walk away from the scene, back up to her team. Once it was time for Shikamaru, Naruto smiled a bit. A shadow had formed around his feet, larger and darker than usual, and he knew his time. Shikamaru was watching to see how the younger one fared against Kin, the sound girl. The shadow climbed up a bit on his feet, which was okay since he already had black sandals on him. He leaned onto the rail and stood to watch the fight. As expected, it happened the way Naruto remembered it, but this time he could appreciate the plan. Last time he had thought Shikamaru was just strange. Having a high IQ though, and Shikamaru was only expected to do that good. The shadows detangled from him and vanished, the blonde knowing Shikamaru was probably off to Gaara or something. In that moment the names stopped and he saw he was up against Kiba. He glanced to the side and saw the boy grin, probably thought it would be a piece of cake. He had not seen much of Naruto since they finished at the academy. Your turn, Naruto, Kakashi said, and he nearly rolled his eyes. Instead he just nodded and moved towards the stairs. To his surprise, Sakura did not say anything degrading to him. Just called out a small, "Good luck." Sasuke nodded once he looked back and then he was down on the first level. "This is going to be easy," Kiba said and Akamaru barked. Naruto sighed and moved towards the boy before saying, "Maybe not." Hayate looked at the two of them and then called out, "Begin." Kiba immediately charged but Naruto was faster, jumping up in the air above him and flipping down on the floor again just as Kiba twisted around. Naruto took out one of his scrolls marked weapons, and opened it behind his back, knowing where everything was and therefore did not hesitate touching one symbol. He removed a kunai with a string attached, and on the string were explosive notes. One of his tricks that was rather useful. As Kiba came towards him again, Naruto moved his other hand and threw a smoke bomb onto the floor. Immediately a black thickness welled out and Kiba stopped as the others wondered what the blonde was planning. Sarutobi, knowing who it was a bit excited to see what the older Naruto could do, and if he was cold enough to willingly hurt a younger shinobi. Naruto himself were busy throwing the kunais around, moving with his eyes closed, already taken notes of his surroundings like Shikamaru had done and now made full use of it. Finally he jumped backwards, the scroll safely rolled up now and in his hand as he came whirling out of the smoke. He landed smoothly a bit away and dragged up a last kunai with an explosive note attached to the end of it. The smoke cleared and they all stared. Kiba stood in the middle of a net made of strings and filled with explosive notes. He stared at Naruto who stood rigid a bit away, the kunai ready to be thrown. Kiba wondered what would happen if they all activated. He called on Akamaru that had escaped the net, and the dog jumped towards Naruto. The blonde had already seen this. He twisted around, caught the dog by its neck and added a gentle pressure, ensuring it would black out. Akamaru flopped limply in his grasp. "Akamaru!" Kiba shouted as Naruto gently laid the dog down. "What did you do to him? Will you forfeit?" Naruto asked, lifted the kunai again. "If you don't, I won't regret throwing this at you." Kiba hesitated this time, glancing around him. He was not sure if they were real or fake. He wanted to believe they were fake. He really wanted that, but there was no way of being sure. And the blonde looked way too serious now. More serious than the older shinobis even. "I don't believe you," he finally shouted, because there was no way in hell he would be intimidated by the dead last. "Alright," Naruto said, "your loss." And so he threw it. The area around Kiba exploded, and Kurenai shouted, perhaps a moment too late or so she thought. The others were shocked. They had not expected him to actually do that. The blonde turned around and began walking towards the stairs again. Hayate moved forward, waved his way through the smoke and then said, "Winner, Uzumaki Naruto." As medics came to take Kiba and Akamaru away, Kurenai rushed down to see how her student was. Shino and Hinata followed, as Hayate continued removing the thick smoke. "How is he?" the woman asked even as she sent a half glare at Naruto. "He was way too dangerous. Just unconscious," the medic replied her. "But that blonde boy sure is skilled." "What do you mean?" she asked, confused. "That trap wasn't meant to hurt anyone," the other medic said, and smiled a bit as her eyes grew wider. "It was just meant to knock someone out. To place those kunais and strings in the exact position, that's pretty tricky, and he did it like it was nothing." "What about Akamaru?" Hinata asked. "Just fine. Should wake up in the next few minutes." "Hinata," Shino said quietly, and the girl turned to him. "The screen." She looked over there, and her eyes widened. Naruto watched the two names, and wondered why some things had to stay the same. Hyuga Hinata versus Hyuga Neji. That boy seriously needed to be brought down a few notches, and there was no way Naruto would let Hinata get that hurt again. If he so had to attach himself to her mind and knock her out, he would do it. Hopefully she would listen to him, and he oh so subtly moved his mind out, trying to connect with hers without her responding like Shikamaru and Gaara did. Watching the two making their way towards Hayate, Naruto closed his eyes and sought Hinata's mind. The girl was different from what he could remember, but she was not stronger than Neji. He ignored that they began to fight, just sitting with his forehead leaned against the rail that prevented him falling down, eyes still close and slowly, subtly, latching onto Hinata bit by bit so she would not be overwhelmed. A sharp pain made his eyes open and he realized he felt her pain. The pain came with every gasping breath, and he saw blood drip down her lips. He made a sign and spoke in his mind. Hinata-san. Hinata stopped for a moment, Neji not moving either, but her eyes were wide as she stared down at her own feet. Hearing a man's voice in her head was not something she had ever felt before. Who are you? A friend. Your lungs are damaged. How did he know? She gasped again, replied, so. I can't just give up. That's the true spirit, Hinata-san, but I have no wish to see you die, and you will if you continue. Neji will kill you, and that will surely sign his own death. Fall back for now. For now, you are strong, Hinata-san, you are powerful. Just not this day. Hinata looked at her cousin and realized the man was right. There was no way she could defeat Neji now. He had trained himself hard to become more powerful, and at the moment he was superior to her. The girl managed to straighten her back, but she felt her limbs were shaking horrible. Aren't you coming? Neji mocked. Then I will come to you. He readied himself. Hinata-san. She caught Neji's eyes, and let her Byakugan fade away. He stopped, eyes narrowing. Blood dripped from her lips, but she still bowed to him. Neji-san, she spoke, a waver in her voice. Her world was fading into blackness, she was not going to hold much longer. She looked up at him. You're much stronger than me today. I can't defeat you, so I forfeit. I give you the victory this time, but not the next one. She fell, unconscious, a slight smile on her lips. Neji stood frozen on the spot, eyes wide. Winner. Hyuga Neji. Naruto watched as the medics took Hinata away, clenching his jaws. She was not as injured as last time, but it had been near. She had continued. He gripped the cold steel bars until his knuckles were white. Naruto. He looked up to see Kakashi stand near where he was sitting. The man squatted down and gently unbent his hands. You were worried about Hinata, weren't you? He said. She would have died had she continued, Naruto said and turned his eyes away. How do you know that? Kakashi asked. I could sense it, the blonde said. Then quieter, Kyuubi could sense it, her body would not make it. Her heart would have given up. I'm glad she stopped. Kakashi looked at him, and felt a frown on his face. There was something he was missing here. Next match was between Lee and Gaara. Naruto could not help the slight smile as Lee jumped in excitement over it. He looked over to see Gaara take a deep breath, vanishing in sand and reappearing on the first level. Naruto called on his times Gaara in case the younger one would lose control. It would be more comforting for that Gaara to be confronted by the older one. And if not that worked, then Kyuubi would step in. He felt the man's chakra swirl, respond in affirmative and then moving towards the hall. The blonde glanced around but saw the others were too busy watching the two genins. He turned his eyes there as well. Hayate looked between them, then shouted out. Begin. Lee blurred out of sight and reappeared in the perfect position to land a hard kick on the other teen's shoulder. Or rather, in the perfect position for everyone besides Sabaku no Gaara. The sand moved, blocked and threw the other away from Gaara, without the younger battling an eyelid. Lee landed and speeded off the moment after that, Naruto barely being able to keep up with the speed. The match seemed endless. Lee came, tried to hit, Gaara blocked, and finally Lee let the weights go. Naruto felt the older redhead move into the hall, looked over and saw him coming up the stairs. Some of the shinobis knew about him and would not question his presence, and the others would be wise enough to shut up about it until the right time. Kakashi glanced over and tensed a little as he saw Akai come walking while watching the two fighting on the first level. The man's walk was calm enough, his arms loosely crossed, eyes focused on the pair and a bit narrowed, but the copy nin could not help but tense a bit more as the man came to a stop near Naruto. He was not sure whether he could trust those three mysterious shinobis or not, and therefore did not want any of them near one in his team until he knew for certain. Naruto himself only glanced up and allowed a small smile slip out, in an angle where no one but Gaara could see him, and the redhead ever so subtly nudged his leg with sand before it retreated. They settled down to watch the match. Kakashi was not comfortable at all with Akai sitting down to a crouch next to Naruto, but he kept his stoic mask in place, his body still with one eye directed towards them while the Sharingan tried to keep up with Lee's movements. "We should not let Lee open any of the gates," Gaara murmured, too quietly for anyone else but the blonde to hear. Naruto knew even if Lee escaped the broken bones and other injuries Gaara had caused last time, the opening of the gates would be bad enough. He nodded lightly and the redhead rose up again, walking a bit away from Naruto, focusing on the younger redhead this time. He willed Gaara to look up at him, pushing out his chakra ever so slightly, just enough with one look. Gaara felt the push and looked around, saw his older self who glanced over at Lee and then back. The teen understood. He did not feel like hurting Lee too badly either, but the Konoha genin refused to give in. Fine. He would knock the boy unconscious. A concussion was not that bad, something that Lee could recover from. Breaking a leg would not stop this one, Gaara knew that. Lee stopped for a bit when he saw Gaara stood in an unfamiliar position, slightly crouched, right hand in front of him, fingers looking like claws while the other was nearby his left hip, the fingers also looking like claws. He had been shown a technique by the older Gaara that would allow him to make the finishing move. Lee saw the teen was intending to finish the fight and prepared to open the gates. There was no way he was going to lose. Gaara closed his eyes, and the two time travelers waited. The sand moved out from Gaara in a ring, constant movements, and Lee had to throw up his arms to protect his face from the whipping wind. Gaara tilted his head up, the short red hair ruffling up, and his eyes opened. He moved the hands. Guy screamed his student's name as Lee was caught up in something, hauled upwards before hitting one of the walls, hard. Gaara let the sand catch the now unconscious teen before he could hit the floor and hurt himself more. Hayate crouched down by Lee, then looked up and said, "Winner. Sabaku no Gaara." The teen was already back at his siblings and the sand slowly trickled back to his gourd. The two looked at him with slight smiles. He had not tried to kill Lee. That was a good sign of him really changing. Kakashi finally looked away from the sight, turned his head to focus on Akai, but the man was already gone. The preliminary matches ended with Dosu as a last winner, winning against Shoji, and then they were presented with the third exam fights. Naruto was with Neji, like last time. It all looked the same, the blonde noted, and was a bit surprised how quickly they were dismissed after getting the information when it was time for the exam and what they should do in the meantime. He met Sarutobi's eyes and the man nodded slightly. He had a job for them. Exiting with the rest of the people, he claimed a toilet break and vanished down a hall. Not even a minute later he was making his way to the room as Shiroi. Kuroi and Akai joined him shortly after that. He could hear voices drifting out from the room, Anko being the loudest. "He is here, and you know it, Hokage-sama. We can't have the third exams now. It's all under control," Sarutobi said and looked at her. "Trust me, it is. All under control," Ibiki asked. "With all due respect, just because Orochimaru is not nearby does not mean he's going to lie docile. As I stated, it's all under control," the old man said. "I have my private shinobis watching his moves." "Private shinobis," Guy said slowly. "They're not of any rank in this village, nor are they known to many people," Sarutobi said. "And there they are. Come in, Shiroi, Kuroi, Akai." The shinobis in the room all whipped around as the three stepped in. Doing the customary bow, the three then began to walk towards the group. "How is the watch on Orochimaru going?" the Hokage asked. "I watch his every breath," Kuroi said with a smile. "You're not watching it now, Anko countered with. All right then, my shadow is watching his every breath. One move I don't like, and I'll choke him to death. Slowly. Sadist, Akai muttered. Shut up. Shiroi only needed to glance back for both to shut up. Kakashi stared at them. So they were on Konoha's side. They should have been introduced to us when they first arrived, Ibiki said. That's normal. Well, this isn't a normal situation. They don't serve Konoha, they serve me. The Hokage waved Shiroi towards him and the blonde began to walk. Kuroi and Akai stayed behind. I want to have this mission done. He gave Shiroi a scroll, and then looked him over. Kakashi, he then said. Yes, the copy nin said. You are intending to train Sasuke, aren't you? Sarutobi asked. I will try dividing my time equally between him and Naruto, Kakashi said. I'm sensei to both, not one of them. Sasuke will need a lot of help with that Sharingan of his, the old man said. Shiroi, you're used to abnormal amounts of chakra, and can defeat it. Yes. You know of Konoha's Jinchuriki. Uzumaki Naruto. Yes, Shiroi replied. What about him? Sarutobi thought for a bit, or at least it looked that way, and then said. Train him, Shiroi. Naruto has only seen the man once, Kakashi began. And Shiroi will be able to handle Kyuubi's chakra, Sarutobi interrupted. Once you get back from your mission, you will train Naruto. He needs help. Understood, Shiroi said. I'll try to not make it uncomfortable with him. Kakashi felt uncomfortable with this already. However, the blonde said, as I'm off to a mission after this meeting, surely it will take a week at least, Naruto should be with his sensei. The copy nin looked over at him in surprise, but Shiroi kept his chilling eyes at the Hokage. Sarutobi nodded and said, that would be for the best. Can you agree with these terms, Kakashi? If I can see Naruto when he's training with you, Shiroi-san, the man said. Of course, Shiroi said and looked at Kakashi for the first time. I will not keep him from you. I will be going then. Introduce yourself to Naruto before you leave, give him some time to digest the news, the Hokage said. I don't want to shock him when you get back. Naruto knew this was to make it easier on the three of the time travelers, being introduced to the shinobis so they could walk around freely. The act with him training himself was also so he could have some free time while he made up, training, for his copy. It was rather nice of the Hokage to do this to them. I will go and find him then, Shiroi said and bowed a bit. Then we shall take off. You haven't asked what kind of mission it is, Sarutobi said with a smile. I don't question orders I've been given by a man I'm currently under in rank, Shiroi said. Would you? With that he turned around and walked out, Kuroi and Akai following, Kuroi having lit a cigarette while the two had been talking and now offered it for Akai to have a taste. They vanished through the doors, white, black and red. Kakashi turned back to the Hokage. Shiroi is a good teacher, Sarutobi said to the copy nin. And a good student. Isn't that right, Kurenai? They turned to look at the woman who simply nodded. His training with Genjutsu is done. The elderly man said as he rose up. Yes, Kurenai said. He only needed the basis, plus with his strength not many Genjutsus can be kept in place if he wants to tear them apart. Tell me about it, Sarutobi muttered as he took on his Hokage hat. That man could tear me apart if he so wished. Terrible strength he has. You trust him, Ibiki said. Yes, the man said and looked at them all in turn. He's a good ally. He, Kuroi and Akai are all good men. Remember that.